Hi guys, today we're going to learn calculus. So for this part we're going to be deriving using product rule. So in this section I will derive using product rule and power rule. So let's go over the product rule. So like I said, when you're deriving there's special rules. You can use it. One of the special rule is the product rules. So here's something what a product rule. The formula for a product rule is, you just have to remember it's f of x times g of prime plus gx times f prime of x. So this is the formula of the product rule, so you might want to write this down because we're going to use it when we do the problems. So you're probably going to ask yourself, well, when do I use the product rule? It must look something like this. So here's an example. If you have h of x equals 3x minus 2x squared times 5 plus 4x, if you could break it into two parts with like an f and g, then you can use the product rule. Yes, like I just said, if you could break the two parts in f and g. So what is something that doesn't look like that requires the product rule? So something that doesn't look like product rule would be something like this. For example, if you had to find the derivative of y prime and you're given a 3x minus 2x squared, you would not use the product rule because first off, they're not multiplying. And then you just know that from instant you would use the power rule, not the product rule, to derive this. So let's see here. Let's actually do some examples. I think I'm going to do six examples. Let's do example 1. So we're given h of x is 3x minus 2x squared times 5 plus 4x. We got to find h prime of x. Right? We got to find h prime of x. So we're going to use the product rule, and then let's see. First step is break it into two parts, f and g. And then you got to figure out what is the formula for product rule. So the formula for product rule is this. It's f prime of g plus g prime of f. So first you got to distinguish your f and g. So my f is 3x minus 2x squared. So what is my f prime? My f prime, or my first derivative. For this one, we're going to just use the power rule. So this has a 1, so it's like 1 times 3, which is 3, and then 1 minus 1 is 0. So you're just left with just 3, remember? And then this one is just negative 4x1, because 2 times negative 2 is negative 4, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. So that's how I got negative 4x. So what's my g? G is this one, 5 plus 4x. And then g prime, remember the derivative of a constant is just 0, so you just let this is nothing. So, and then the derivative of 4x is just 4. So g prime is 4. So, okay, so we just got to put it, we just got to follow the product rule formula. So it's f prime plus g prime of f. So h prime of x is f prime, which is this one, 3 minus 4x, times it by g, which is this, right, 5 plus 4x, plus g prime, which is 4, times it by f, which is this, 3x minus 2x squared. Good. Okay, so now let's clean things up. So when I mean clean it, let's actually FOIL these out. So FOIL this, etc. So this 3 times 5 is 15. 3 times 4x is positive 12x. Negative 4x times 5 is negative 20. And then negative 4x times 4x is negative 16x squared. Now let's FOIL this out. 4 times 3x is positive 12x. And then 4 times negative 2x is negative 8x squared. Good. Now, let's just combine like terms. Let me see here. So what is my highest degrees? The squares, right? So let's box that one. So I have a square here, a negative 16x squared here, and a negative 8x squared. So h prime of x. Negative 16 plus negative 8 is negative 24x. And then put the x, don't forget the x squared. What's my highest, my second highest degrees are the x values, right? So we have, I'm going to circle it. So we have a 12x, an x 12x here, and negative 20x here, and then a 12x. When you combine these three terms, and it's the circled one, you're going to get a positive 4x. Good. Now what are you left with? What's your leftover? Is the constant, which is a 15. So it's just positive 15. So that's your final answer. So this was a pretty simple one. We just pretty much took the product rule. We figured out our f and our g, and then we took the f prime, and then take the g prime, and then just put it in this formula, and then combine like terms. Simple, right? So let's do more. Let's do some more. So let's do example 2. So let's say we're given this, y equals square root of x times g of x. We got to find y prime. So first step, distinguish your f and your g. So this square root of x is my f, and then this g of x is just g, my g. So let me rewrite that. So f is square root of x, and then my g is g of x. So what would be my f prime? First, how do I write this square root? How do I write that in power? I could rewrite that as x to the 1/2. And then to take the derivative of that, you just take the power rule. So this is going to be 1/2 x 1/2 minus 1. What's another way of saying 1? We can rewrite 1 as 2 over 2, right? So it's 1 minus 2, which is negative 1/2. So this is how I got next x to the negative 1/2. Now let's clean that up because oops. Let's clean up. I want positive powers, positive exponents, so I could rewrite that as 1 over 2 x to the positive 1/2. And then I could rewrite, now what if I want it in radical form? So it would be, in radical form, it would be 1 over 2 x to the 1/2 is the same thing as square root of x, right? Good. Now this is our g equals g of x. Let's find g prime of x. G prime of x is just g prime of x. Don't be confused, it's just g prime of x. Now, we just got to put it in the formula, the product rule formula, right? What's the product rule? It's f of g prime, f prime of g plus g prime of f. Okay, so let's put it, so y prime is f prime, which is, what is it? This thing, 1 over 2 square root of x, times it by g, which is g of x, plus g prime, what is our g prime? It's just g prime of x, times it by f, which is square root of x. Let's see here. So, your final answer let me rewrite it, is this. Y prime equals 1 over 2 square root of x times it by g of x plus g prime of x times it by square root of x. Okay, so this is your final answer. So that was example 2. Let's do example 3. So we have ht of this. We got to find h prime of t. So we got to use by using the product rule. So first step using this of the product rule, we got to distinguish our f and g. So my f is this cube root of t, and then my g is this whole thing, t squared plus f. So let's rewrite let's distinguish our f. Our f is cube root of t, and my g is t squared plus 4. When I take the f prime, let me rewrite it in power form. So f prime, first let's rewrite it as power form. What is t to the cube root in power form? It's 1 to the third, right? To take the derivative of t to the 1/3, you just take the power rule. So it's 1/3 times t, and then it's 1/3 minus 1, but another way of saying 1 is 3 over 3. So 1 minus 3 is negative 2/3. Okay, but what if I want it in, I gotta write this in just positive exponents. So in positive exponents, it's going to be 1 over 3 t to the positive 2/3. And then what if I want it in radical form? In radical form, it would be 1 over 3. Now this t to the 2/3 is same thing as the cube root of t in the second power. That's what t to the 2/3 means. Good, so we know that f prime is this. Now let's find g prime. Simple, all you gotta do is, for this one, we're gonna just use the power rule. So it's this one is gonna be 2t to the first power, and then the derivative of constant is just 0, so it's just 2t. So now we just gotta we gotta use our product rule. So the product rule is this, f prime of g plus g prime of f. So the h prime of t equals f prime, which is this one, right? 1 over 3 times the cube root of t squared times that by g, which is, if you remember, g is t squared plus 4. Good. And then plus, so now it's g prime. G prime is 2t times it by f, which is the cube root of t. Good. Now let's clean this up. This is going to be t squared plus 4. This is going to be what? Cube root of t squared. And then don't forget this 3. This is going to be what? Wait, timeout. Let's put this in power form. Let's make it more simpler, okay? So this is like 2t times, this is the same thing, cube root of t is the same thing as t to the 1/3. Okay, now we can combine these terms because when you're multiplying exponents, you're adding, right? So this has a 1. So it's like saying, what's 1 plus 1/3? We can rewrite as 1 as 3/3, which is 4/3, right? So this is going to be 2t to the 4/3 power. Now let's rewrite that in radical form. So in radical form, it would be 2, the cube root, it would be the cube root of 3, and then it's going to be t to the 4th power. Good. And this has a, okay, so now we're adding fractions. What do we know about adding fractions? You must have a common denominator in order to add fractions. So what is my common denominator? Common denominator. It's this, right? It's just 3 times cube root of t squared. Their common denominator is 3 times cube root of t squared. So I just got to multiply this part by this, right? 3 times cube root of t squared, both sides. We don't have to do anything about this, right? Because this is already common denominator. We don't have to do anything with this. Let's clean this up. So how would I clean this up? First what I would do, and I know there's probably more than one way to do this. I want to write the numerator, everything in power form. So this 3 to the cube root t is the same thing as 3 times t squared at 2 raised at 2 to the 3rd power times 2 to the t. This is the same thing as 4/3, right? 4 to the 3rd power. Now what we can do is we can add those power, because when you're multiplying, you're really adding. So it's like saying 2/3 plus 4/3 is 6/3, which is just 2. And then you have to multiply the coefficient. So this is going to be plus 6 times t to the 2nd power. And then just bring this over. So that the numerator is going to be t squared plus 4. And then you just divide it by the common denominator, which is 3 times this power, the cube root of t squared. Okay, now let's clean things up. Let's fix the numerator. So we have a t squared here and a t squared there. So that's going to be 7t squared plus 4. And then the book actually wants you, they answer it all in power form. So how do I rewrite this in power form? It's the same thing as 3 times t to the positive 2/3 power. So this is your final answer. H prime of t is this. Okay, so we found the product using the power rule, and then so yeah, it's pretty simple. You just got to figure out your f, your g, and then you need to know the formula for the product rule. So that was 5. Let's do example 4. I think, yeah, we're only going to do 6 examples. Okay, so this one's a little bit easier. So we gotta find g prime of t, right? Find g prime of t. First step, this is the product rule because you're multiplying and you can break it into two parts. This is my f and this is my g. So f is 2t squared minus 3. And then to take the derivative of that is just using the power rule. So 2 times 2 is 4t, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. And we know that the derivative of a constant is always 0, so it's just that. It's just 4t. My g is 4 minus t squared minus t to the 4th power. And then the derivative of that is, the derivative of 4 is a constant, so it's just 0. And then this one is going to be negative 2t to the 1st power. This is going to be negative 4t to the 3rd power. Good. Now just use the product rule. The product rule is fg prime. It's just f prime of g plus g prime of f. So, okay, so g prime of t is f prime, which is, what is f prime? 4t, times it by g, which is this long one, 4 minus t squared minus t to the 4th, plus g prime, which is this one, negative 2t minus 4t, times it by f, which is this one, 2t squared minus 3. 2t squared minus 3. Now it's just simple foiling and then combining like terms. So when you FOIL this out, you're going to get 16t minus 4t cubed minus 4t to the what? 5th. And then this one, when you FOIL it out, you're going to get negative 4t cubed plus 6t minus 8t to the 5th power plus 12t to the 3rd power. Now let's combine like terms. When you combine like terms, your final answer is going to be this. So here's, you have the highest power is 5, so box the 5s. You can circle the next, what is my next higher power? 3. So you can circle that. Anything with a cube with a 3, just circle that. And then you just bring in the leftovers. So g prime of t, when you add it all, when you combine all like terms, it's going to get negative 12t to the 5th plus 4t to the 3rd plus 22t. This is your final answer. There. So that was example 4. Hurry this up. Let's do example 5. Oh no, which one? Yeah, here's example 5. So let's see. We're going to use, so we got to find f prime of x. First step, what is my f and g? So this one is my f, and this whole thing is my g. So this one's going to be a little bit trickier. F is x, and then the derivative of that is just 1, right? The derivative of x is just 1. Now my g, this is where you're going to have to use, I think you're going to have to use product rule. G is 1 minus 4 over x plus 3. Now to take the derivative of that, you're going to have to use the product rule. Wait. Yeah, we're going to have to take the product rule, but first you got to, we're subtracting fractions, so you got to get a common denominator. So the common denominator is x plus 3. So multiply this by x plus 3. So when you do this, you're going to get x minus 1 over x plus 3, right? Because when you combine x plus 3 minus 4, you're going to get this. Now, I don't want to use the quotient rule. I'm going to actually use the product rule because this is all about product rules. So I can rewrite this as x minus 1 times x plus 3 raise it to the negative 1 power. So now we can use the product rule. So this is my f and this is my g. So if you remember, the product rule is f prime of g, so it's going to be, so what did my f is x minus 1, so the f prime is that is just 1, and then my g is x plus 3 to raise it to the negative 1, and then the g prime of that, you're going to use the power rule, so you're going to get negative 1 over x plus 3 square. So that I just simply use the power rule. Because negative 1 minus 1 is negative 2, and then negative 2, and we want that in positive, is you put that in the denominator. Good. Okay, now what do I do next? I just use the product rule. So the product rule is going to be, when you use the product rule, you're going to get 1 times x plus 3 to the negative 1 plus negative 1 over x plus 3 square times it by x minus 1. Good. Okay, so let's clean it up by combining like terms and adding fractions. So how I write x plus 3 in fraction, I could write that as 1 over x plus 3 to the positive 1. And then this is going to be negative x plus 1 over x plus 3 square. Okay, I need a common denominator. So the common denominator is x plus 3 squared. So all I'm missing is an x plus 3. So it's like saying x plus 3, and then you combine this with x plus 3 plus negative x plus 1, you're going to get 4 over x plus 3 squared. So we did all this work just to find g prime. So g prime is this, 4 plus x plus 3. But this is not your final answer. Now we have to use the product rule. So what I did was I had to find to find g prime, I had to use the product rule. To find the derivative of the whole equation, now we have to redo the product rule, right? So let me rewrite this. So our f is x, and then f prime is 1. G is 1 over 1 minus 4 over x plus 3. And g prime is this, because we had to do that, because that was our product rule. So g prime is 4 over x plus 3 squared. Good. So let's do the product rule. So remember the product rule is f prime of g plus g prime of f. So f prime is 1 times it by g, which is 1 minus 4 over x plus 3, plus g prime, which is 4 over x plus 3 square, times it by f, which is x. So we gotta clean it up again. So this is just 1. Okay, so let's clean this up. So this is going to be 4x over x plus 3 square. And then this is going to be this is 1. So remember, we're subtracting, so we need a common denominator. This is going to be x plus 3. We're going to multiply this by x plus 3. So x plus 3 minus 4 is, what is that going to be? X plus 3 minus 4 is x minus 1. Wait, where did I go wrong? Oh, okay, so this is going to be x plus 3 times it by x minus 1. There we go. And then this is going to be x plus 3 square. Okay, good. So when you FOIL this out, you're going to get x squared minus x plus 3x minus 3. And then don't forget this plus 4x all over x plus 3 square. And then when you clean it up, you're going to get x squared plus 6x minus 3 all over x plus 3 square. So this is your final answer. This is the derivative of that. So let's do the last one. So I gotta I'm gonna try to make this hopefully I can make this under 40 minutes. Okay, actually this might be a long one, so I'm gonna break this into 2. So I'll call this part 1.